Sometimes you're flush and sometimes you're bust. And when you're up, it's never as good as it seems. And when you're down, you never think you're going to be up again. But life goes on. Remember that. Money isn't real, George. It doesn't matter. It only seems like it does.
Our pleasure, man. This is awesome. I was just complimenting Ray on his backdrop back there, man. All that sports, man. We need to put something in our studio, man. It's all naked right here, dude.
Maybe put different. Yeah, you could. That's a good idea.
Yeah, we were gonna put the show on or do something, man.
It's a really good idea. It's a really good idea.
Actually, to be honest with you, I was gonna get some big fat heads and put them behind us. I don't like to hear my own
fatter
voice.
than these two heads.
I'm really humble, and so it's good for me to stretch my legs a little bit sometimes, and to be able to come in and hear my own voice and see a little bit bigger picture of me. I think that'd just be inspiring for many.
That's awesome.
See, Stingray can appreciate that.
Yeah. So Stephen Ray, aka the Stingray, the maroon and white big fan down there, right?
Well, I've actually quit being a Mississippi State fan in 2017.
Whoa!
Really?
Those that didn't know, now knowing is half the battle.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it got pretty nasty on the part of Mississippi State, and if you'd like, I can go into that.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Well, wait a minute. Let's start from the beginning, man. Okay. You've always been a big football fan?
Yes, always been a huge college football fan. I'm not really big on the NFL, but I just like college football, and I like all college sports pretty much.
And then, Stephen, tell us what I know that you had some derogatory comments towards kickers. What were you saying that the value of college kickers were?
Well, I don't really know, but man, they've got to be able to make a kick when they're needed,
Right, Ray?
Right, Ray?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. Yeah, they're there for a job. You get a scholarship,
they're assassins, Ray. Ray, this is what you're supposed to answer. Let me answer for you. You go, Eric, I really appreciate you downplaying the role of a kicker, but we're instrumental.
I was more of one.
We are literally the assassins of the team. We are literally the best number one sniper you're ever going to see in your entire life. Basically, the team revolves around us. They just don't know it. When you're down by 2, only the kicker is going to save you. You've got 38 seconds. You got 38 seconds to save your life. Who do you call in? That's right. You call the kicker.
But check this out, though. Field position is big, so if you have a good punter, they can alter the game, right?
Absolutely. I was just about to say that, man. I was just about to say, hey, Ray, you kicked a 75-yarder up at BYU.
Thank you, Stingray. Yeah, thanks. And I think field position is everything in the game. You get it inside the 10, inside the 5. Kickoffs are good. And then that right there alters the whole game. That's what, when I went to junior college, that was a big thing. Is like we worked on field position, and that's how we won a lot of our games.
Yep.
So Stephen, you've always been a big college football fan. You were a Mississippi State diehard fan. Yep. You had the cowbell going on. I got to admit, you had how many cowbells do you own?
Let's see, probably 12 or 13.
Oh, yeah. You have some pretty sick cowbells going on there, and some of the old videos, man, they were a lot of fun to watch. So you were a big Mississippi State fan. You were going to all the games. You were talking the trash. You were doing it all, man.
I was, and that actually got started in 2014. just because I've always been had always been a Mississippi State fan. And, Paul Feinbaum signed on the SEC network, and he said, we would like to have a participant from each university in the SEC. And I thought, well, since I have a sports broadcasting degree and I like Mississippi State, why not let me be the voice of Mississippi State on the Feinbaum Show? And so I sent in my first rant back in 2014, the week before Mississippi State went down to LSU and shocked the world. And Paul didn't show it. I sent one in the next week for Texas A&M. He showed it, and thus Stingray was pretty much born.
Nice. So did you go to Mississippi State, or where did you go to school?
University of Alabama. But see, here's the deal. I've always had a knack and an interest in the weather, and I wanted to be a meteorologist. And so all throughout middle school and high school, I really wanted to be a meteorologist. And so went over to Mississippi State, toured the campus, fell in love with everything about the campus, and 80% of the broadcast meteorologists that you see on TV graduated from Mississippi State. So they're the #1 Mississippi weather program in the country. So I went over there and toured it and actually got accepted to Mississippi State. And then at the last minute, I decided that college sports and football would be a better avenue for me. So I got my degree in sports broadcasting from the University of Alabama.
Nice. But you're not an Alabama fan.
Not really, because I'll just go ahead and say it. Those fans are quite nasty and arrogant. And it's very, very, very obnoxious, arrogant.
Wow.
Stingray, you do know that there's fans everywhere too. They're like it's kind of like a pandemic, really. They go everywhere. They like Alabama 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Yep.
And then maybe another SEC school is 6th.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's kind of over the top annoying. Now I'm really happy that I did, get a degree from the University of Alabama. And of course I do like some Alabama sports, but not football, because those fans are just outrageously obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, we just picked up the Raiders, so there's a lot of people scared about some fans showing up at our games, because the Raiders definitely have a reputation of some hardcore tough fans.
Yes.
So something I wanted to ask you, Stingray, to maybe help us out, down south and in Texas and all those places, football is life. Even high school football is life. And it's everything down there. Out west, here we like our football, but it's not as big. It's not as big as it is in the South. Ray, man, you can chime in and see when you were playing at UNLV and you would do a home game, but then say you would go somewhere else, maybe in the South somewhere, and do an away game. What was the difference in the fans and in the stadium?
Well, it's like you guys were saying, it's completely different. I know it's Stingray. We talked about that on your show a little bit, but like out west, there's so much going on. You have the, California, the beach. You have the nice weather, and out where we're from in Iowa, Stingray's out from Alabama. There's really not much going on. That's all. Like that's what people look forward to every Saturday, and the tailgating's big. And it's a whole day. But yeah, I mean, when John Robinson came, he did change the culture. We had some bigger crowds there when he was there, and then going down the south, and
beat Arkansas.
Yep, Arkansas. It's a different feel. It totally is a different feel.
And see, down south, we really don't have any dominant pro teams. So, the Hawks are bad. The Pelicans are bad. The Titans are not that good. The Falcons are not that good. So, I mean, it's all about college football, and that's pretty much it.
The Fish aren't very good. The Jaguars aren't very good.
No.
Right. You can just keep rattling them off. The Bucks
Tampa
got lit up last night.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's all college football or nothing.
Yeah.
So
I was
Stingray,
gonna
you're
say-
not a fan anymore. Oh, go ahead, Ray. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry, no problem. No, I agree with Stingray too about college versus pro. I can't really watch NFL games. I mean, it's hard for me to sit down and watch an NFL game because it's all about the money.
And
Yeah, that's
here's
true.
another thing too. You guys were asking about how to, bring, change the culture out there. I'm
Yeah.
just going to go ahead and say, because Ray and I were talking about this, you guys have actually got to, do like Tom Allen has done up at Indiana. Yes, he's playing up in the Big Ten, way up north, but he pretty much has ties to the South. And he's brought in some Southern players, and you've got to be able to come down here and recruit in order to get the best players, I do believe. Now, I really feel like that if UNLV was just a little bit more competitive, that system and everything would take off. But you've got to start with the big time players. If you can find a little niche to come get the players and say, hey, come play for us in Vegas, then I think you guys can definitely change the culture. Because UNLV, who does not want to go to Vegas? That would be an amazing thing to play in Vegas for 4 years. But man, you've just got to find a way to get Southern athletes to come out west, and then you would have it made.
No, I completely agree. The other problem I feel like we have is we even have some very good athletes here on a high school level.
Right.
Bishop Gorman is one of the top rated high schools to come play football. There's kids from California and all over the place that are playing there. The problem is they never stay here. They all want to go to UCLA. They want to go to USC. They want to go to some of these bigger colleges to get seen, and they don't want to stay here locally. And I think that's another big problem. I grew up here in Las Vegas, born and raised, and when I was a kid, the hardest ticket to get was Rebel basketball, the hardest ticket. And that was during the highlight. That was when they had the players, and every seat was sold out. They were high dollar seats at the Thomas and Mack, and it was the place to be. But it was because they were dominating. They were on the news. They were out there. Tarkanian was just running the show, and it was just fantastic. But then when they don't win, Vegas loves winners. And
yes,
I think that was the Golden Knights' way of getting in, is because they had that magical first year, went all the way to the Stanley Cup, and they sunk their claws into this valley, and people became super fans. And I just would love to see that happen with the Raiders, with Rebel football, with the local team, and have that local thing grow,
I really feel like that if the if the NFL team out there, I really feel like that if they can take off and then UNLV gets a little bit more competitive, I think that can get the ball rolling to help you guys out. But it's all got to start with UNLV being a little bit more competitive, because you've got the NFL team there, but if you guys are still only winning 1 or 2 games a year, which sucks, that's not going to be really attention grabbing. I mean, you got to become a little bit more competitive.
Oh, 100%. I totally agree.
So Stingray, you're talking to Ray when you say that, because he is the tip of the spear when it comes to recruiting in the South, recruiting in the Big East. Is Ray is our front man for that. I don't know if he told you that. And so, but going back to that experience, you said you're not a Crimson Tide fan. One of my friends is a Crimson Tide fan because he lived in Alabama. And I'm like, so what's it like? And he's like, Eric, it is just as big and just as phenomenal experience. Like, if you get upper row tickets to a Crimson Tide game, you're happy. You're more than pleased with the experience. And so part of that is because, Adam, you're talking about those few people, but what it takes to win games. Ray, you're supposed to chime in and go, hey, Stingray, 2 years ago we went 6-6, brother.
What though? I was gonna say something though, and Stingray, we talked about this on your show. The difference now is that UNLV is in a different category now. We have a new $2 billion stadium,
Right.
new $42 million training center. So when an athlete comes in, they get off the plane, they see the strip, and then they go right to the Fertitta Football Center, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is where I get to train. I got to get my haircut here. Video games. I got a training table. I got the beautiful strip right here." And then they go see the stadium. It's a whole nother ball game compared to what we had, because back in the day when we had Sam Boyd Stadium or like a Division I AA stadium, and then we have the training, the facilities just weren't up to par. Now, I think you're going to get to see the better athletes come. It's going to take 2 or 3 years, but it's gonna happen.
When Ray was in school, because I was there at the same time, and saw Ray dominate Arkansas, and didn't get thrown out when Arkansas tried to assault me, the linebacker. I tell that story a lot. Is the facilities, even compared Stingray, to understand where we started from, like when Ray was in school, the gym back then was not even like a professional gym. It was a bunch of weights, and I mean, it wasn't that big. Ray, what did you say, about 1,200 square feet?
Well, the one you're thinking about, they had the lead complex. I don't know if you ever saw that. So when John Robinson came, that was like kind of up to date at the time. It was called the lead complex.
No, I'm talking about the one before that.
Oh yeah. That was like that was not good. But yeah, that was not good. And then so for UNLV to make these big strides, I think it's very exciting. And then talking about basketball real quick, I think we have some of the best basketball facilities too. Compared to,
we do. We have some, actually Stingray, just to give everyone some hope, the recruiting class for next year, UNLV has the 14th, what's so far ranked the 14th best recruiting class for next year. And
that's
I think, and going back to like John Robinson and how he made a difference, and our current coach is, we're picking up the former offensive coordinator at Oregon. So in the future, hopefully UNLV not only is able to win, but win with a lot of flair, because, Adam talked about, hey, we need to see winners. UNLV has won games in the past, but maybe it was against Dixie State, or maybe it was against, some lower tier schools. So it's not always the number of wins, but it's also who you run with. And so same thing with basketball. For a long time there, when Lon Kruger was here, he would win games and kind of get us by, and it was fun. But man, we couldn't buy a dunk. Our center, dude, we had some great kids on the team, but we could not buy a dunk to save our life. Like the product wasn't there of like running rebels, of big dash. And now with Tyler there, Tosh.O there, for basketball, man, we've got an offensive, and both for football and basketball are going to be, in theory, when we get football up and running, Ray's working with the team, it's going to be a team of high scoring, high movement, same basketball and football. And I do agree. I think with college sports, the great allure to college sports is that literally anyone, you talked a little bit about Stingray when Mississippi stung LSU, UNLV. Yes. I got on the radio the day, Ray, do you remember when a little school called UNLV beat #1 North Carolina at the Orleans?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I'm not going to toot my horn, but Stingray, I know what it feels like when you talk a lot of trash on the radio, and guess what? Then your team backs you up. Yep. I know what that's about, Stingray. I've been there. Yep. So I literally got on the local sports radio, and I told him, I said, this is like the 5 reasons UNLV is going to come in and stun #1 North Carolina. And I was sitting behind the left side of the basket. And I remember that game was like yesterday. And talking about memories, college football memories are last a lifetime, And
man, put a cowbell in this guy's hands, man. Right?
Yep, that's right.
I need to buy one, Ray. I need to go buy one.
Yeah, Ray, we need some cowbell around here,
right?
So Stingray, give us the sad news. How did Mississippi State break your heart?
Well, they didn't. Well, here's the deal. I started doing the rants, and I had one back in 2015 that got 330,000 views in a week. I really went off on LSU again, and I called Mississippi State Davis Wade Stadium the new Death Valley because of the cowbells. And at the end of the video, you can go back and watch on my YouTube channel. I said, I screamed as loud as I could. I said, "We are Mississippi State. Fear the bells." And it got 330,000 views. And that was really when I took off. Okay. So in 2017, not bragging here, but this I'm just going to tell you like it is. I got a message on YouTube that said, "Hey, Stingray, I am the producer for Tosh.O, and we would love to have you on the show. We would like to, for you to come out here to LA and to record a celebrity profile segment with us about your fandom of Mississippi State." So in September of 2017, I came to the West Coast and did a quick segment with Daniel Tosh, and it actually aired that November. And for whatever reason, the Mississippi State fans did not like the rhetoric that Daniel Tosh put towards the SEC, the South, and Mississippi State. And so, I personally feel like that it was jealousy on their part that I actually got to go on Tosh. But at that time, I was overweight, and they really hit me hard with bullying me and fat shaming me on social media and saying that I was using Mississippi State to advance my own brand without thinking about how negatively it's going to hurt Mississippi State. And so they started doing that to me. And so I was just like, you know what? If I've gotten you all this publicity, and if you guys are going to treat me like that, then I'm just going to be the bigger person, and I'm going to leave and distance myself from you guys.
Wow. And you didn't just become the bigger person. You became a less person. How much weight have you lost?
Currently, I've lost 122 pounds.
Great
Awesome,
job.
man.
Great job.
Thank you.
Stingray.
I love the before and after pictures, man. I think that's inspiring.
Thank you. And I did it all, with diet and exercise. No weight loss surgery, no diet pills. Just,
Nice.
It was just like, I've got to get my weight under control. I'm over 30 now, and I had to really get on top of it.
Awesome. Is there any kind of particular diet you followed, or you just kind of just watch what you ate?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with gout in 2019, and it was pretty bad. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anything about gout and knew nothing about it. And I went online, which you're not supposed to do, but I think it saved my life. I read the complications of gout, and the complications with gout were heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, and kidney stones. And I was over 30. I was healthy other than having gout. But my body was in that process of, okay, if you don't do something right now, this is your last warning to get, to do something about it. So I went to my doctor. He put me on the low purine diet, which means no beef, no pork, and no shellfish. So I have not had a piece of steak or any pork since January of 2019.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That sounds tough.
And no sodas either. And it took me about, I don't know, probably about a month to get used to the diet. But now that I've been on the diet for so long, I don't want any of that other food that I used to eat ever again. I don't want to touch it ever again because I look at it as poison because it, all it did was make me overweight, make me obese and give me gout. And so I look at that as poison, and I never want to have it in my mouth again.
Okay, so how do we convince you to be a Rebel fan?
Well, Ray's already got me some gear coming, so
Yeah.
yes,
Friday.
I guess you can already call me a Rebel fan.
Nice, man.
Right.
Man, we will take you in a heartbeat. In
we
a
need
heartbeat.
Stingray, we need you, Stingray.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So Stingray, one of the things that we're going to need you for is the hardest part with tailgating here. Ray talked about how bad it was at Sam Boyd. It never had that culture. And like Adam and I grew up here, so we didn't grow up with that culture. And so those traditions about tailgating. So there's a really big school here besides Bishop Gorman. One of the other powerhouses is Liberty High School, which has a strong Polynesian background. And some of the greatest tailgates that I've been here in the Valley is one time. So I helped organize one of the coaches from Liberty used to have a trailer here in town, and it would have I have some videos of it. We roasted a pig, we had chicken just grilling and roasting on this big trailer. Just imagine a big 16x7 trailer just full of barbecue chicken and unfortunately Stingray did a nice pig, but that was a great experience. And and that experience is very few and far between. When I say that Ray is like the spearhead for UNLV sports, a lot of times is like for the alumni association, he tries to get people out and, try to get people back to, on one of previous episodes, we talked about pizza and how pizza reminds people of an experience. And that's what tailgating and bringing the community back to the stadium is, hey, relive a little bit of that college fun.
Right.
By tailgating. And the other hard part here is Vegas is a service industry state, meaning, UNLV still has, Ray, I don't know the exact number. When him and I were going to school, it was in the 90 percentile, the number of students that held either a part-time or full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably going to be a hard problem for UNLV for many decades, in the fact that you can go to school, you can work, and that's what makes it such a community school. Whereas, such a small student population is just 100% here on campus, here at the Death State, the Death Star.
Yeah.
And so I think, we need to find ways, especially your background, Stingray, as a broadcaster, and we talk about the influences of media. We forget, like, when you have like a spear tip like Ray, who's totally involved in the community and totally involved with fans over many generations, we kind of need someone to boost the platform, to like give us all a reason to come back and give us a reason to tailgate, because otherwise people here, especially in Vegas, get bored. And guess what? You get bored. Guess what? Like Adam said, there's 1,000 other things going on. Oh, you know what? Yeah, there's,
every weekend there's a show. Every weekend there's a concert. There's so many things that are pulling from everyone else's attention.
Yeah. Or they're working those events too.
Yeah.
And so we got to find a way to build a culture that kind of brings all that. And I think Adam alluded to that. The Golden Knights experience.
They did that.
Yeah. It's a game within a game. Like it's a show within the show. Like you have an NHL game, and then you have like the show within the show. Like it's just an experience. Yeah. And that's part of what we need to bring back.
Do you guys think if the Golden Knights start losing, do you think it'll still be packed?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
You just said it. it's a show. It's an experience. Win or lose, I honestly think that
I wouldn't say packed
here.
though. Like right now they're averaging over 18,000. Well, before the pandemic, they averaged over 18,000 seats. It was almost sold out most nights. The great thing, the thing that the Golden Knights benefit from, A, they play more games than college sports. B, you get at least 25%, Ray. Like, we're a destination city. And he said this, the owner of the Knights said this. He's like, no, it's going to work out because we're a destination city and we're going to get fans coming from other cities to come and be fans and fill the seats. And it's come true. Like, we'll go to a game and you'll see, Toronto Blue Jays. You'll see not Blue Jays, but
Maple Leafs.
Yeah, Maple Leafs. You'll get the Maple Leafs. You'll get the Islanders. You'll get, you'll see a good amount of fans, and they'll show up with their sweaters from their hometown. They're like, dude, especially every fan that is a fan of a Canadian team, they love coming to Vegas. They're like,
well, any reason to get out of Canada.
Yeah, they're like, get us out of Canada. Let's get out of here. Come to a great town.
Jump the border.
And so
that's why we're not building a wall up on Canada. We're only building it down south.
Yeah. And so Stingray, I think honestly, like, you and Ray teaming up could be really phenomenal for UNLV. Like, it's not tongue in cheek. Like, Ray has been pulling this cart for a long time and not with a whole lot of help. But
you have Flavor Flav helping you, right?
Flavor comes, when he comes to games, it's on, especially the basketball games. Remember, I think you guys saw him there in the Jumbotron. He loves supporting local sports.
Ray, don't bring up the Jumbotron around Adam.
Oh,
he gets all upset. He gets all upset because, hey, Stingray, if you're looking for someone to be on a Jumbotron, right here, where is that, Stingray? Ray, will you tell Stingray how often I'm on the Jumbotron?
He's on there once.
Once?
No.
That Jumbotron loves me, Stingray, and I love it.
Well, I've been to, I can't tell you how many games, and I've never actually been on the Jumbotron, so you're better than me.
He was even on Tosh.O.
Yeah.
No, I think another problem that Vegas sometimes gets, it's a transient city. And very few people, like Eric and I, we can say that we're from here, but that's rare out here. There's not a lot of people that are actually from here. So they're bringing in their fan base from wherever they're from. You know what I mean? They're Seahawks fans, or they're or they're Bear fan, or they bring it in. But the Golden Knights were created here, so that brought a different culture around it because they were born here. The second home game, I was able to go to a Golden Knights game. It was their second home game, and I was sitting next to a guy. He had a Detroit. They were playing the Red Wings. He had a Detroit Red Wings jersey on, but then he had a Golden Knights hat on. And I got to talking with him because I talk and I'm friendly. And he was saying that he grew up in Detroit. He loved, and that's where he fell in love with hockey, was playing peewee hockey in Detroit, dreaming about playing with the Red Wings. But now he lives here in Vegas. He goes, I'm always a Red Wings fan, but now I'm a Golden Knights fan. And he brought that love with him whenever he moved from Detroit to Las Vegas. And I think a lot of people are like that. They're still bringing their home love from wherever they came from. As more people come from Las Vegas, I hope that we can build more of that community here. I'm sure down in Mississippi, I mean, people love Mississippi State when you were a fan for them because they went to school there or they were from Mississippi.
Yes, and you don't get any of that other stuff down here, and it's frowned upon if you're from Mississippi and are a fan of somebody else. Like, I was a graduate of the University of Alabama, but I like Mississippi State, so I call a lot of flack about that. Because in the South, you just can't do that. I mean, man, I'm telling you what, there is absolutely nothing like a Southern football event. I mean, these people take it like life or death. I'm serious.
But it's kind of fun. I want to go. I want to go down there and experience this big time. I may not be a fan of any of the schools. I just want to go. Yeah. I love a good sporting event, and that sounds like a good one.
But sometimes people can take it over the top. But yeah.
Well, and shaming you on social media and stuff, I think is pushing it. You know, it's like, I mean, even if say you were pushing your own agenda or your own name out there, what was the big deal about that? You're also supporting Mississippi State. What's the big deal of helping you out too? You know, you got all those views. I'll be honest with you. I wish this show had that kind of views on it. Like I was saying, like, here, share us on your social media, please. You know, I want to blow this show up, you know?
Right.
We got
go ahead, Ray. Go ahead.
We got your back, Stingray.
Thank you, man. And see, just to kind of, I don't know if you guys followed this or not, but just to kind of tell you a quick little story about how the South is. Back in 2010, Auburn with Cam Newton, they came into Tuscaloosa. They were highly ranked. Alabama had lost 2 games coming into that game. Alabama had the lead on Cam Newton and Auburn at the half. Auburn then, of course, went to the air, and the arm of Cam Newton brought Auburn back. They knocked off Alabama and went on to win the national championship. Well, after the Alabama-Auburn game, there was a famous Alabama fan who was so pissed off that Auburn won that game. There's always been a tradition of rolling the trees down at Toomer's Corner down at Auburn. And the Auburn fans, after a win, whether it was home or away, would always toilet paper those trees on the square in downtown Auburn. That Alabama fan, by a guy by the name of Harvey Updike, went down to Auburn the next day and poisoned those trees to kill that tradition because his team got beat by Auburn. I'm not kidding. That is a true story. And then the idiot called into the Feinbaum show and bragged about it on Monday.
Wow.
That's not good. Yeah. Wow.
So there are, it's great. Yeah, it's fun. But then there are those lunatics who go way overboard. And it's just like, really, dude, really, it's a game. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's great. But it's not like life or death. Come on.
Yeah. Wow. Dude, that's great. I never knew that story. That's a good one.
I bet.
Man, it made national headlines. And that guy actually went to jail for like 5 years because of that. He went to prison for 5 years because of that.
Wow. That's sad.
So Stingray, tell us about your show, the Stingray Show. What's that about?
Well, we're actually, it's kind of a work in progress right now.
Is it a podcast?
No, it is a video cast like this. But we actually run highlights out of it, and we do it via Restream. And so we do it on Tuesdays and Fridays of every week. But this week, because of Thanksgiving, we had a show today, and we're having a show tomorrow. And we have big guests on. We've had Ray on before, and we just kind of sit there and, talk about the current news. And then my co-host and I pick games and that kind of stuff. And so far, we've been really lucky on who the guest we've gotten. And if you want to tune in tomorrow, we're going to be live at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to have Tony Barnhart on, and then Cole Kublik.
Oh, wonderful.
And then, hey, Stingray, so I know you just switched the format. I was listening to that you switched to a viewership engagement show.
Yes.
How do you have a separate producer that's helping you with that? How's that working out?
Well, they can actually, the viewers can actually send me the questions. Then I can, like a lot of people will ask, like, what coach is on the hot seat this year? And then I will send them the link, and then they will come on the show and ask us.
Okay.
So I'm doing all the production stuff too. I'm doing all the highlights and running all that off my computer and then that kind of stuff.
And then do you have a what we call a regular job?
Yes, I actually have real estate here in Tuscaloosa. I own and manage rental properties here, but I absolutely despise it because if you're selling real estate, it's fine. But rentals, you're on call all the time, and it's just a complete pain in the rear end. So I'm really trying to get my broadcasting career off the ground.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Stingray, if you want to guess what I do for a living, I own a little real estate company here in Henderson. So, I'm just trying to look good on the camera. That's
Ray,
what I'm trying to do.
Steven, when you're ready to move out here and bring the show out here, he'll sell you a home.
Well,
sell you a real nice home.
Hey, and we're always looking for new property managers. So that's a double win-win.
Right. And real quick, I do have a question for you. Did either one of you guys play football?
High school.
I got you.
I have so in high school, I actually had I have an injury right here where I separated my shoulder, and still to this day, stop. Yeah, so there's nothing else I could do. My older brother, my older biological brother, played at Texas.
Awesome.
Got recruited by USC. He's 6'5", 280, huge. Like, I'm a big guy, and then
Right.
my brother next to me is bigger, and he got recruited by USC, BYU, and Texas, and he ended up at Texas. So
what years did he play?
he's 12 years older than me, so that would be 85.
Okay, cool.
So
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
learn something new every day.
I
So.
know. Keeping the secrets away.
He's a heck of a softball player too. I play with him.
No, that's my little brother.
Oh, that's your little brother?
Yeah. Travis never played any sports.
Oh, never?
Oh,
Man.
He played.
That fooled me.
Yeah, he played bowling in high school.
Oh, man.
Well,
My
dude,
little-
if you don't mind, I would like to contact your brother because that would be a pretty good little interview talking about, his playing days at Texas and all that.
I'll reach out to him. He's really sensitive about that, Stingray.
Okay.
To be honest with you. So I talked to him about that, and so
Right.
he actually quit the program, got his education,
I
quit
got
the
you.
program for the other stuff that is whispered about in college sports, but rarely talked about, which is the PEDs. And in those bigger schools, especially in the 80s, Brian Bosworth, just to bring up a big name, PEDs are they weren't only encouraged, they were required.
Yeah.
And so that's how a lot of those big programs that now have gone by the wayside, Oklahoma, Nebraska, I mean, Texas is in and out of the mix, but not as much, is because the amount of PEDs that are involved in keeping those guys huge.
Right.
We talk about your weight loss. If you look at the before and after picture of Brian Bosworth, when he quote unquote retired from professional football after 6 months of cashing checks, he already cashed a big check from the Seattle Seahawks. And after the first year, he retired to just do movies. It's a tremendous, not just weight loss, but it was a body loss. Like like size wise, he shrunk by, at least a half. And so, and that's something that's very rarely talked about. Now, we talk about the facilities. Ray's talking about, well, you need this, we don't have a better facility. It's because, the days of PEDs, the days of, Jose Canseco and the other PEDs that are involved, have gone by the wayside, where people now, hey, we have to have nutrition. We need to have diet, exercise on like the top level, top tier. And that's where, when Ray says, hey, UNLV's got a better facility, is because, hey, you can either go for the juice and try to get big, or exercise.
Yep. We got a couple players. I won't name their names, but getting tested randomly. They got kicked out of off the team for that back in the day. So yeah,
I think it should be legal. I think everyone should take it. Let's make them big, dude. Right?
Yeah, I don't find all that.
Oh man, dude, let's let them all take it.
Well,
Yeah.
real
Pump
quick,
them up, man.
I do have one question for you guys. What did y'all all think about the rankings that were just released a few hours ago?
I saw that. I saw that, Stingray.
I haven't even seen it. We've been doing podcasts.
Number one is Alabama. Then it went Notre Dame. Then Clemson, who has one loss, was ranked over Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. But I will tell you, I was really surprised that Texas A&M was on the outside. I mean, just right there at number 5. And you had Florida, Cincinnati, and shocker, Northwestern comes in at number 8. Now, that's impressive.
That's impressive. Northwestern's tough, Stingray.
Yes. Yeah, man.
So,
I mean,
yeah, we don't have it updated. We're looking at it right now. Stingray has Northwestern as 11. What did they have BYU as on the new?
14 right now. And that's
Oh,
really
this must be
low.
old.
Well,
BYU's.
I'm talking about the college football playoffs. The first rankings was just released at 6 o'clock here.
well, number one, so that's the unfortunate part. So Ray was talking about, unfortunately, with professional sports, it's all about the money. It's all about cap space. It's all about, big contracts. Unfortunately, though, on the back end of college sports, there's that underlying beast, that underlying demon as well, which is money. And so, to not have Alabama in the top 4 is sad. I do think BYU's schedule works against them,
right?
But on the flip side is they do have, a professional, it will be an NFL pro quarterback. Notre Dame at number 2, that to me is questionable. Once again, Clemson, once again, looking at their schedule, questionable. Ohio State, I think it's kind of I think they're kind of in that eternal fourth seed. No matter what year it is, they're probably going to be the 4th seed because unfortunately for them, they don't. So any good story, right? You go back to any good story, you have to have a hero and you have to have a villain. And unfortunately for Ohio State, if Jim Harbaugh had made Michigan into that villain for Ohio State, where maybe they split games every other year, or they trade players, or unfortunately for Ohio State is they don't have their villain, right? You talked about the Alabama and Clemson. Right there, you have a perfect story, right? Everybody wants to read about that, the Cam Newton story you just told about, and so you have these back and forth battles. You talk about Alabama and LSU for a long time were the 2 pairs dancing, and so right now, I mean, Notre Dame at number 2, that's just that's they beat Auburn, so they're kind of anyone. They're willing to dance with anyone, but so that's why you have players so. Look into those top 4. If that went to the playoff today, that's going to sell. That's going to get eyeballs on it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, part of college sports is, especially now more so than ever, we're not talking about gate. We're not talking about the gate, which are the tickets going through the ticket sales. No, we need to sell eyeballs right now. And this, if this happened tomorrow, said, hey, this is going to be the playoffs. These 4 teams are going to get the most eyeballs by far.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
I got a question for Stingray real quick. Stingray, what do you think about expanding the playoffs to more teams? I think they should do 8 teams or even more, because I love
12 at least.
12, yeah. How cool would that be to see some, like I don't know, an Oklahoma State sneaking in there, or a Arizona State, or one of those teams sneaking in there and going against a Bama, or I think that'd be great.
I do too, and especially with the smaller teams like Cincinnati or BYU, give them a fair shot, just like everybody else has.
Yeah.
Well, like this Coastal Carolina, are they always in there? That's kind of
no. They were just there this year. They're really good.
Wow.
Well, and so that's a big thing. That's why people love college basketball, is because of March Madness, to be honest. Right? It gets everyone in, where you got 64 teams, you got a whole week of just basketball. And my hope is that eventually, it won't be just 1 week, but if we had a whole month of college football, could you imagine that? Could you imagine, like, mid-December to mid-January, every week is just another round of playoffs in different regions?
Could football do something like that, like a March Madness? Is that possible, or is that too much for the players? Like, do they need rest time?
Much. I think it might be, a little too much. But I think 12 teams would be perfect, and then the rest of the teams go to bowl games like how it is now. I think 12 teams would be really cool to see that. I'd love to see it.
I will tell you, I don't know if any of you guys follow the SEC or not, but there is
Stingray. Where is that? The SEC? Where is that? Is that a new government agency? What is?
No, the SEC is the the Southeastern Conference. I don't know if you guys follow it or not, but one of the bad issues that we have down here is the SEC right now, and other conferences are as well. When they get back to this money issue, they definitely protect the big dogs, and Alabama and the Georgias always get the calls, and it always seems like the referees help them get to the SEC championship game or the playoffs. And so
that never happens.
Definitely.
The stars never get the calls.
Whatever.
And so, man, it's really, really hard to watch at times because Alabama and those teams, they don't ever really get upset or beaten until they get into the 14 playoff. You're never going to see an Ole Miss or an Arkansas upset Alabama in the regular season, or if you do, it's going to be very early on because everybody wants the money of Alabama to go and do the SEC championship game in the playoffs, and so it's really sickening to see that at times, and it's really frustrating to have the officials, sway the game and calls when there are a close game or two with Alabama.
Yeah, no, we actually agree with you. So being a Rebel fan, that we
usually screw ourselves.
Yeah, usually we're on the losing end. We're usually on the other sideline in those cases. Usually in college basketball, but there's been and so Ray already knows this, Stingray. I do have Rebel Red glasses, right? When you say, hey, your rose colored glasses, yeah, mine are Rebel Red colored glasses. Right. So of course the refs a lot of times miss the calls. And I think that's just, and they've actually proven this out, actually, like the effects of ESPN, like this is like the negative effect of the mothership of ESPN and of the, because they're trying to sell a headline, they're trying to sell a dialogue or a story. And so, now that happens, right. In baseball, they talked about how even the Yankees are having the worst season ever, but they get more airtime is based on, well, they've built them up. They even tracked sales for New York Yankee swag and Boston Red Sox swag, and how ESPN has literally picked those 3 or 4 teams in the Major League Baseball, and by them promoting it unvirtuously, they have quadrupled, 300% increased the sales of theirs. And especially out here west, to understand that most people out west very rarely visit the East and very rarely have small ties to the Yankees, to the Boston Red Sox, but yet all this sales goes on nationally speaking, even down in the South. And so it's the same thing with Alabama. Once again, they get the premium ESPN coverage. They get the premium ESPN You know, and it's not just the coverage of just the show. If you get on the Sports Center, you know, who are the highlights? You know, highlights, Alabama did this great job. They beat this little school by 55 points. Woo, good job. You know, they're the best. You know, Nick Saban, you know, and just the amount of they talk about the different coaches is just, it's so lopsided. It really is like them. It's kind of like having your own promotional channel running all the time.
But see, I really think that that kind of hurts sports to have the same dominant, you know, the same people up there year in and year out, because you saw what happened with the NBA every year when it was the Cavs, Warriors. Well, yeah, that's fine if you see it twice. But when you get into 3 and 4 times, it's kind of like, yeah, I've already seen this. I don't want to care to see it again. That's why I feel like LSU winning it last year was a breath of fresh air, because we didn't have to hear about Dabo and Clemson and Saban and Alabama. It's just, you know, give us somebody else, you know.
Yeah. And also, it's the whole point of college sports that anybody can win on any given day. And it's not the same old, you're not, you know, oh, it's the same man, it's the same coach, same program.
And, you know, everybody kind of got tired of Pete Carroll at USC back when he was dominating back then. Well, not y'all, obviously, but you know, us down here, we're like, oh my God, we're so tired of Pete Carroll because they were so dominant, you know, and you know, everything is fine. I'll give you another example. You know, the New England Patriots. Everybody was like, come on, can somebody else at least try to at least be competitive against them?
No, so, we have no respect for Patriots fans. Right. Everyone knows that they're a bunch of cheaters. The Seahawks should have won. Their receiver was held. That was not an interception. Everyone knows those things. That's just basic law out here, Stingray. So we have no love for the Patriots, no love for Belichick, but we have respect for Belichick because, but yeah, I 100% agree with you because. And so, unfortunately, we have networks that are like, "Hey, let's roll out the same characters in the story and keep selling the same story." So,
and it's kind of getting boring after a while.
It is like having Ray be the Bachelor. Like it was good for one season, but let's get another Bachelor now. So, same thing.
I love my position there. What are you talking about? No, yeah, I agree with you guys on that one for sure. Just like Duke and college basketball, they're always in it. It's like, geez.
Yes. Or Kentucky.
Yeah. Oh, man. Kentucky.
But dude, I feel like Kentucky basketball is the most overrated program ever. They always get there, but they can never actually win it. They always get to like the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, and then they do this.
Yep.
Yeah, we love it.
Stingray and you guys, I want your guys' opinion on this. I think with college football, I think just jumping in this is like kind of another subject I was just thinking on top of my mind, but the instant replay, I think, takes too long in college football. It's like sometimes you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. I think they should give the referees like 1 minute to get an answer instead of just dragging it out. Sometimes you're like 15 minutes and you're just like, geez. So that's
I agree with that. And I also feel like that if, and we talked about this on our show today, I feel like that if there was an egregious call that the officials called or the officials missed, you know, if a player fumbles the ball and they lose, the player has to be grilled by the media. If the coach makes a bad call and they lose, the coach has to as well. And the coaches and the players, and especially the coaches, will get fined if they say anything against the officials. However, the officials get off scot-free, even though they're the ones who actually made the call that ultimately would lose a team a game. I think you also really need to hold the officials accountable if they make an egregious call, and especially if they do it multiple times during the season.
So the only caveat I have to that, Stingray, have you ever officiated a game?
No.
of any sport? Ray, have you?
Yeah, kickball. I tried to-
Okay. So I would invite any of our listeners listening to that question to chime in on our episode. Is, have you officiated a sport? And if so, what sport? Because the first time I officiated a sport was girls basketball. It was a freshman girls basketball, which the gyms for freshman sports is like, you basically have a gym, and it's got 2 rows of bleachers. And as an officiator, you are almost in the bleachers officiating the game. And I did a horrible job because it was my first time. And those parents held me accountable.
They chased him to his car.
They did. There was a parent that was about to chase. Luckily, myself and my partner were decent size, so we could hold our own. But it taught me a great lesson in that officiating is not easy. It is human. Is there room for officials to make mistakes? Absolutely. And it's part of the game. And so it in a difference. So players prepare all week for a game, and then they're supposed to execute a plan. Coaches, same thing. You have your job, you prepare for it, and you execute it. As officials, you semi can prepare, but you literally have no idea how the things are going to play out. And so it's an estimated guess at best. Every call is an estimated guess at best. And so I don't think it's fair to hold them accountable. And I didn't think that, because being such a large fan, I always felt like the calls didn't go our way. Like, I got to know the names of the officials, and I forget where I was. I was out of town, and they were officiating, and I got to know some of the officials, and I found out that they were just regular people like me, and that they had, most of them have either played the sport and, had timed out and had moved on in life. And so I think if people understood that, like Stingray, you remember when, I think in the NFL, the refs were on strike, or the real refs were not, their contract wasn't ratified, so they brought in temporary refs, and they actually saw the difference between, it's always that conversation, like, if you are going to be a referee for the NBA or the NFL, that's what the only thing you should be, right? But the only way to do that is to compensate them at this level. That's all that they should be doing. And so you'd have to change the whole dynamics of reffing. I have friends that still umpire and ref, and they do it as much as the games go. And so they know the cadences, they know the rhythms, they know what the calls look like, and you work your way up the scale. And so, but I think it's completely different in the fact of a player and a coach. Here's the plan. Here's how we executed it. For an umpire is, we have, you have a whole interpretation of what's going on.
Well, here's my problem with it. I blame high definition television, because as a fan, you're at home and you see the play and you see what happened clear as day. We have televisions that cover our wall. Back in the day, my old man's television was like little, and it was a piece of furniture, and it was heavy as a car. But now we have TVs hanging off our walls that are the size of a car. And we are seeing the play in real life, but then the umpire or the officiator screws it up, and you're just losing your mind, because
how could he do that?
But you're the Seahawk fan that saw your team lose the Super Bowl, and you saw it clear as day on that giant 71-inch television you just borrowed money from your mom to put on your wall for the Super Bowl, and you're seeing it, but the stupid officiator standing right there at the edge can't see it. That's the frustration, is we have this technology
and the coffee table,
every single play, the hair on their chins, we can see it all, but we're still relying on human error.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, too, though. In the SEC this year, we've actually had 2 calls this year that actually went to replay and was botched by the officials on the field, plus the ones up in the booth looking at it on the HD and all that stuff. Now, answer me this. How do both get it wrong when they're looking at it? That's where
Was
I'm
it
like,
for or against Alabama?
this was actually in the Arkansas. One of them was Arkansas and Auburn at the end of that game, and the other one was LSU Arkansas this past weekend.
So Arkansas is on the outs. This is what you're saying.
But it's hard because you're seeing the same thing they're seeing in the booth. So you're watching it at home and you're like, there's the play.
Yeah.
It's over. We won or they won or whatever the case was. But then they're seeing it totally different. I can see where the frustration comes from. Next thing you know, you're driving to a different city and poisoning a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
You're a crazy person, you know?
We'll see, Stingray, don't do it, man.
Oh, no, man. I would never do that. Never.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
No,
not
there
going to be
was
poisoning trees. It's going to be cutting down the trees. I know. Stingray texted me. He's like, I would never poison. I would just cut the trees myself.
Oh man, I love college sports, and I have a little bit of sense about me. I would think really hard before I did anything like that. I mean, you've got to be pretty off your rockers to do something like that.
Yeah. No, we agree.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and going back to one of the things I do like about professional sports is, Fox does this with their NFL broadcasts is they have Joe Pierre on, and he's like, hey, as a retired referee, this is what I saw, and this is how I would have called it. And even the umpires go against sometimes what he says, hey, this is the actual technical rule. And it then becomes even a little bit more educative. He's like, well, based on the letter of the law, this is what, they'll probably call. And even then there's some of those times where Joe will be like, this is a 50-50 toss up. He's like, I could see it go either way.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, you're like, the professional says 50-50 on a good day. You're like, wow. Okay. And so even having that integrated into the broadcast somehow, I think would be great.
I have an idea. I say we zoom into a fan and let the fan make the final decision. Just pick a fan, boom, just randomly pick a fan out there, zoom into their living room and say, okay, you make the call.
Yep.
And then watch all the fans burn their house down.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Like the poor Cubs fan who caught that fly ball. And now
man.
he's still missing because no one knows where he's at because Chicago fans wanted to murder him. I don't know. I don't know if there's a right answer for that or not, Ray. I mean, I totally understand. We have technology to help us make these calls, but then the human nature behind the calls is also part of the game. Like, I'm a huge baseball fan, and the umpire behind the plate that's calling each pitch, that's part of the game of his human error. You got to play the game according to the umpire. So when I was coaching baseball and my boys are out there, we would get umpires that their strike zone was smaller or their strike zone was bigger. So then all of a sudden the way we play the game changes because we have that kind of a blue behind the plate. And so there's an element that comes with the game, with the officiating. Yeah. So, but it's hard to, because as a fan, like I said, you're watching it lifetime and you want to see.
There was just going to jump in here real quick. There was a game, and I follow originally, obviously, from Iowa, so I follow Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa State was playing Washington State a couple years ago in the Alamo Bowl, I believe. And Iowa State, they brought 90% of the fans. It was all Iowa State, and they were beating Washington State rushing yards, passing yards. The referee throws out 2 targeting penalties against Iowa State that offset the whole game. And Iowa State lost, and I'm like, it takes the fun out of the game. It's like,
yeah.
And those targeting calls were wrong too. So, and my friend's a Washington State fan. He's like, yeah, see, we won. I'm like, okay. and I just, walked away. But that to me, I think the referees should be like graded, maybe like have a grade, like this guy's an A+, have an all conference referee team.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
That's a good idea.
all referee.
They do that in basketball already. I don't know if you know that, but they do that in basketball. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but there was that egregious pass interference call that cost the Saints the shot to go to the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
No, we don't. This is probably before our time. Doesn't sound familiar, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. It came out that a couple of those officials were from the LA area. I feel like that if you have any ties to that particular team, that you should not be allowed to go on or officiate that game.
I would agree
like if you're from that city or if you have ties to that school, like in college, I think that should automatically disqualify you and you need to go do another game.
No, I would totally agree with that. I read an article that officiating all over the country from college to professional levels is at an all-time low. There's not enough officiators to do it, and they're encouraging kids to be educated like that. That would be a good job for these kids. When I sat on the Little League board here in Henderson, one of the things we started doing is at our T-ball and our little rookie levels, which is what we call coach pitch, is we would let the kids be the umpires. Now, they didn't have to call pitches. They were just calling outs and pop flies and things like in the outfield. But it got them experience. They know they're not going to play baseball, but they can learn to officiate it because across the nation, officiating is at an all-time low. And
so do you know why though?
Because no one wants to do it.
Yeah, that's right. You're the bad cop. Well, and there's there's no reward except for monetary for officiating. And so just as much as we're sitting here talking about, a little pass interference call that may or may not have happened, nobody outside of the South really cared about that pass interference call. Everyone on the West Coast understood it was a toss-up call. Is at the end of the day, like, there's no reward. Officiating is one of those jobs where you don't get talked about unless it was questionable or egregious.
Right.
They did. I think they even tried this. On broadcast, they were like, hey, this is the amount of calls that were called, and this is the percentage that was done right, and stuff like that. Supposedly there is a committee that goes back and watches all the calls, and in theory, like, the best squad goes into the Super Bowl. And but
they should get paid more money than the other officiators.
Their
contract should be huge. So if you're the best officiator and you make the best calls, you should have like $1 million contract.
You should.
But you're not. The players.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree on that one.
Yeah.
But see, getting back to college football just for a second, all of the Power 5 schools, or at least the ones down here, they have their own officiating crews, like the SEC crew, the ACC crew, the Big 12 crew. Why does each conference have to have their own officials if they're not doing something below board?
Because they're not. You have to feel like you're going to get a fair shake, So when they do an away game, so you give up home field advantage, but you have to bring in the other crew. That's why. So it's a counterbalance so that they, in theory, don't feel like they're getting a bad shake. Because if you had home field advantage in Death Valley and you had a, SEC crew, and it was, and you're coming there from another conference, then then you're going to get you're getting 2 sticks instead of 1 that are beating you across the back. So that's why I think it's discounted. I like that part, because unfortunately though, and I think what happens is if they're coming from another conference, they try to prove to everyone how fair they are by not calling calls for their home conference, actually. So you end up getting a backhanded compliment all the time. We could have called that, but we didn't, because we feel like you should prove yourself here. So,
well, if you want better calls, you pay them. You want better teachers, pay them.
yeah,
It's all about the money.
It is, yeah.
You got the best players, you pay them the biggest money. You want the LeBron James of calls, you got to pay the LeBron James price.
Hey, I got to ask Ray something, man. Where did you get that ABC flag? That is insane.
He stole it.
After one of the UNLV games, we played it, and I was like, I'm taking the sign down. And I'm like, all right. I think it was against BYU my junior year. I think it was on ABC, and I just said, hey, can I take the sign? They're like, sure. I took it in the locker room after the game.
Dang. How big is it, though? I mean, it looks pretty big.
That's, man, that looks about 10 by 6, probably.
Jeez. That's awesome.
It's a pretty big one, man. I was like, yeah, I love the ABC sport. I love the ABC announcers too. Yeah. But I think Brad Nessler he's an SEC guy, but he's my favorite college football announcer.
Yeah, he's on CBS right now. CBS Game of the Week with Gary Danielson.
Yeah, those are the best. Yeah.
But Gary Danielson is horrible, man.
What about Brad Nessler though?
I like him. Yes, I like him, and I actually liked Vern, the guy before him.
And I like, I like. That's another thing too. The college football announcers to me are better than the NFL announcers. The NFL, they had some of the guys.
I tell you, somebody who I really, really miss in college football, and he is actually living in Vegas right now. Brent Musburger.
We are live, right?
Yeah,
yeah. He's awesome.
He's living here. We got to get him on the show.
We got to get him on the show.
Yeah, he's living in Vegas.
Yep.
He does all the. I think he does the Raiders. A lot of Raiders stuff now.
Yeah, and actually, I think it was last Sunday night they showed him in the booth calling the game for the radio announcers for the Raiders, I think.
Huh.
And he's doing a lot of stuff.
We may have to look into that.
Heading online too out there.
Yeah, he's awesome. Mike Tirico's another good one.
Yes.
He's I think the college announcers are just overall a lot better than the NFL ones. The NFL, I gotta turn out if I'm watching an NFL game, I just gotta put it on mute and just watch it.
Yeah,
I totally agree. If I have to listen to Joe Buck call a game, I'm cutting into a vein, man.
Who?
Joe Buck.
Oh gosh,
dude.
Yeah.
I signed an online petition to get him off the air.
Or what about Troy Aikman?
Oh, these guys, man. Yeah. Yeah, there's some. Who was the comedian they got for a little while?
Frank Caliendo?
No. They got a comedian to do Monday Night Football. Oh, man.
Oh, Al Michaels.
Who was it?
It was Al Michaels.
Al Michaels? Yeah.
That wasn't good. I was like,
it didn't last very long.
Yeah. Stingray, the picture you have with Joe Tessitore, is that how you say his name? Tessitore?
Yeah, Tessitore, yeah.
That guy's voice is
yes.
Like, his voice is sick. Like you want to keep and watch
I actually met him at SEC Media Days, which is a whole week in the summer where all of the coaches and the players of all 14 SEC schools get together either in Birmingham or in Atlanta, and they have press conferences all day, and they just sit there and talk about their team and the upcoming season. Man, I'm telling you, we go all out for this football thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Dude, man, y'all have got to come for an SEC Media Days. It is insane.
We'll come out there, right? We're coming out, man. Get us. We want to come to an Alabama and a Mississippi State game.
Alabama's a lot better, I'll just have to tell you, because at Mississippi State, the Cowbells, if you don't take your protection, you will still be hearing those dang cowbells ringing 10 days later.
It might be worth it, man. It's part of part of the
Yeah.
experience. But no, the tailgating. One of my friends' daughters goes to Alabama, and we were actually talking yesterday. We're going to come down to a game once COVID gets over with, and
Yes.
that's going to be amazing.
Make sure you come when it's a full stadium, not like it is now, because it's kind of ho-hum right now.
Oh yeah.
Everything's going to be better once we get over this COVID crap.
Yes.
Yeah. Really sad.
Stingray, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. For anyone, go check out the Stingray Show. We're going to put the links in the bio. So I'll get all the links from you, Steven, and we'll put it all in there so they can catch you on your show and listen to more college football. And Ray, dude, you're always on the show. We love it that you're on. You're like our guy, man. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Ray, you're like our guy until you don't take us to the Death Star with you. So, Steven, I'm sure Ray's invited you to Vegas to go to the Death Star, go to a UNLV game with him. He usually only takes, really pretty girls, but I'm sure he'll make an exception. So.
Well, guys, look, I want to thank you. It's been a blast. Hopefully we can do it again. And I hope all of you guys have a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Stingray.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And go Rebels.
There you go.
Yeah. Have a good Thanksgiving, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
We'll see you.